Hi, we are here right now at GeoTHERM in Offenburg in Germany, and I am sitting here with Mike Adams of Elemental Energies. Mike, can you tell us a little about yourself and a little about what Elemental Energies does?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good to be here, back for our third year at GeoTHERM. Fantastic conference. Elemental Energies ultimately is an integrated subsurface wells and facilities engineering and project management business. We have, a growing number of people globally, now over 350 people. We're based, primarily in Europe, but we also have a presence across the Americas, Asia, Africa, and we look at energy projects across the spectrum. We have a really passionate team looking at geothermal projects. It's something I've been involved in since the beginning of my career, and yeah, absolutely fantastic industry, and we're really keen to keep supporting and growing our support for geothermal going forward.
Okay, so where does Elemental Energies sit on that development process for geothermal?
Yeah, so we get involved typically quite early in a project development process. We have the subsurface, but also the environmental and the kind of project planning capability to be able to support the earliest phases of, whether it's permitting or you're kind of coming up with development concepts. But we do quite a lot of work in, early project feasibility, concept studies, working with both developers, but also investors, doing due diligence on projects. So we could get involved very, very early. And what we love to do is then see a project through. However, we're routinely getting dropped into projects at different phases. Some projects take quite a long time to mature, and we're a patient company, so we'll get involved at different phases through a project's life cycle. But we do a lot of work in the well engineering and construction phase. And as anyone in geothermal knows, these are often quite challenging wells to drill. Often long-term well integrity, well intervention kind of challenges to overcome. So yes, we're routinely also getting involved later in a well's life, looking at well integrity problems, helping solve some of those issues that creep in as wells get older.
Okay, so can you give some insights on, say, because of your close relationship with clients on the client side, can you give us some insights on the typical pains or needs of clients, whether they are developers or investors?
Yeah, I think if you look kind of historically, especially in the kind of core traditional geothermal markets, some of those traditional pain points have been around things like well integrity, wellbore failure, which we address through, we have well integrity teams, we have well intervention teams, but we also have geomechanics and formation damage teams that help address some of those challenges. But I think one of the most interesting things for me is to see how the kind of client landscape has changed over the past 5 years. We still have all the great, long-term investors in geothermal, in Europe and Iceland and North America, in Asia that we work with. But we see, there's a new breed of client that has come into the market. And we're working with a lot of those clients, just a different pace, but also a different relationship with investors, maybe a different time horizon, and in some cases, a different ambition on how many wells they actually want to drill. And some of the new, developers coming into the market are incredibly ambitious on the number of wells they want to drill. So we're seeing different pain points there. Obviously, they're maybe more focused on due diligence, working with investors, but then also looking at operational ramp up and how are we actually going to be able to drill this many wells to this depth with the rigs that we have right now in the market and things like that. So it's a really interesting time, and I think those insights into how clients are changing, I think that's something that we worked really hard to bring into the market and our projects, understanding what's driving that client, whether you're a kind of municipality or you're a new private equity backed low carbon investor, totally different kind of outlook, and yeah, we have to support both.
Okay, then we'll get to that topic again later. But can you tell us about the companies that you've been working with, say, to complement your own expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. So we both, we have, I would say, a very broad kind of, client base in different regions, and they need, different types of support. We work with numerous other partners in the supply chain to kind of bring solutions to those clients. Obviously, the most kind of important one for us is our joint venture partner, Iceland Drilling. We're obviously incredibly close to them. We have a joint venture, which we actually launched at GeoTHERM this time last year, which was great. That wasn't the beginning of the partnership. We've been working with them for, before that, in a long time. And that's a really important partnership for us, and to us that reflects the pressure that we see clients under to have confidence in delivery of rigs and well construction services, especially in that kind of ramp up phase that the industry's in. So that's very important for us. But we also have a really strong relationship with all the major well services companies. We work with, and again, different people in different countries, but it's really important for us to have those relationships into the service companies, but also software suppliers as well. We use a lot of software. We do a lot of heavy lifting with models. So we have to have a really close relationship both with the software providers, but also places where you can get big computing power as well, universities who we also work closely with.
Okay, can you tell us about some of the more interesting projects that you've been working on?
Yes, I mean, that's one thing geothermal is not short of, is interesting projects. I mean, I think there are projects that we're kind of on the periphery of, and we're providing, consulting support, or we're looking at different solutions. How could we help with models or different ways of predicting what might happen? That leads me to some, IDDP, and some of these cutting edge projects where we're scratching our heads on how can we help, put something together almost experimental that could help from a modeling perspective. We've been really close actually with Evor over the past 10 years, and it's been great to see how some of their projects have evolved, and we're kind of quite involved in maybe some of the new applications for their technology in Europe. And then our kind of one of our main projects coming up is Cornish Lithium in Cornwall in England. Really interesting project, and to us that's a really good example of a smaller developer, I would say, punching way above their weight, being able to come up with a fantastic project, putting together a fantastic group of people to help deliver the project with them. Huge potential, and yeah, I mean, really interesting technology. And for the first time in the UK, that's something that we're seeing expand now. Finally, after 10 years, that's a technology that's now expanding in the UK, which is great to be part of that.
Okay, then. So maybe to wrap up the interview, as a company that is often the first point of contact for clients, what do you think can the geothermal industry do to turn that interest into actual projects? Like, how can we address any sort of reluctance or bottlenecks in the process for these clients?
Yeah, that's maybe one of the most important things I think we have to address as an industry. From our side, we're working increasingly closely with investors, new stage developers, and the supply chain to kind of, it's about collaboration. I mean, you can look at it from any of those angles and see the challenges that people are facing, but we have to kind of actually come together and go, okay, let's connect. Let's do the due diligence with the investors and reduce their risk, levels. Let's work with the developers to come up with that integrated project plan, and let's pull the supply chain in. That's one of the reasons why we built our joint venture, was because it was, it's a way of showing the clients what's possible in terms of integrated project delivery. And ultimately, I think it presents a massive opportunity for geothermal. It's in all my time in the industry, it's the best alignment I see right now between all those parties. It's still not perfect, and there's still lots of things to overcome, and it's different for Europe, and it's different for Asia, and different for North America, but huge potential. And ultimately what we're now seeing is real interest on the investor side. And so I think for us, whether it's the developer or the supply chain, we need to capitalize on that and make sure we're putting together good projects with good project plans and an assured delivery model that an investor can go, okay, this is a good project with good subsurface, good permits, and actually you have the right team in place to deliver it and give us some good wells and get a project off the ground.
That is excellent insight. Thank you, Mike.
No, thank you so much. Cheers.